October 21st will be.
This will be my last meeting.
That will be, yes. This will be your last one.
Oh, you done, huh? I'm done.
You done on the 30th.
I might circle back around in a few years. I want to take a little bit of a
Everybody turn their mics on. I'd like to call a meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission of September 8th to order. Will all three please rise to the invocation and the pledge of the flag. Dear Lord, we meet today to undertake the city of Leesburg business. We hope that the decisions we make will be pleasing in your sight. Pray this in thy most holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before you have the minutes of the July 21st meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or amendments to those minutes?
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I second.
All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay, Daniel, if you'll explain to the folks here, and by the way, thank you all for coming. We always like to see a new people out here in the crowd that want to make our day much easier. And Dan, would you introduce a couple of our new employees before you get into the how we do business?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to. We have the planning and zoning staff. As most of you know, we had Carrie Lee Murray on staff with us today. Simon's on staff with us, and she had a baby and decided to stay home. So the city commission and the city manager saw that we needed additional people, and they added one to replace Carrie Lee, and then allowed us to add one more, which we badly needed. Ms. Max Van Allen is a planner here with us. She's seated on the left. And then Ms. Melissa Metters. Max is here as a planner as well. Max started on August 1. Melissa started on August 8. They've been a great addition to our staff and our learning and a great help to us. Thank you, sir.
So Mac and me.
You got it.
Glad to have you all, very much so. And one more thing. I want to apologize. Last month we had to cancel the meeting because of some irregularities and some people that weren't here. We apologize for it, and we're here to make up for it. Carry on, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to welcome everyone to the September 8, 2022 City of Leesburg Planning and Zoning meeting, Planning Commission meeting. My name is Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning Director for the City of Leesburg. Today we have with us Ms. Sabrina Mitchell, our Administrative Assistant to my left. Senior Planner Candy Harper is in the second row there. And then, of course, Max Van Allen and Melissa Metters are over on the computer. Today's meeting agenda is available on the table by the exit door if you don't have one. If you'd like to speak on a case, we would ask that you would please sign the speaker's registry and turn that in to Sabrina right here so that we'll know that you'd like to speak. Under the rules of participation, the meeting will be conducted under the following process. The chairman will announce the case. The staff will read the exhibits, which include maps, photos, and text, into the record and then present this information on the two screens. Staff will read a recommendation and some background into the record. The applicant will be able and have the opportunity to speak about the request. The chairman will allow time for public comment. The applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal. And then the chairman will close the case to the public. The commission will discuss the case, and then a vote is taken, and then we move on to the next case. The Planning Commission itself is a citizen board that is appointed by the City Commission. They're charged with two major responsibilities. One is to make final decisions on cases such as variances and conditional use permits. And the second is to make recommendations for issues that are to be heard by the City Commission, such as full rezoning cases. Today, the Planning Commission will make a final decision on one variance case and will make recommendations that go to the City Commission on all the other cases on the agenda. Please note that there are tentative dates for the City Commission hearings that are listed in bold on the agenda. These dates are subject to be changed to earlier or later dates, so please check with P&Z staff or the City Clerk's office regarding the final hearing dates. Finally, on behalf of the Leesburg Planning Commission and the City of Leesburg Planning staff, we'd like to thank you for your participation in today's Planning Commission meeting. Mr. Chairman, we are ready for you to announce the first case, please.
Okay. We're going to old business. A couple of items. Who's going to speak on this? If you need, we'll get a cuss you in. Sabrina, will you cuss those in?
Sure. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
So help you God. All right, under old business, public hearing case SSCP 22173, County Road 44, Swan Silver Lake Property Small Scale Comp Plan Amendment. And we can deal with that and the rezoning together, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the first two cases, Small Scale Comp Plan 22173 and PUD 22-174 PUD zoning for the Swan Silver Lake property. By way of background, this proposal is for property generally located west of County Road 44 and north and south of Sing Road. It contains about 49 plus or minus acres. They're requesting a change to the future land use designation from Lake County Rural Transition to City of Leesburg Estate Residential. And they're also requesting a change in the zoning from Lake County A Agriculture and Lake County R1 Rural Residential to City of Leesburg PUD, which is Planned Unit Development. The project is planned to contain single-family and/or townhouse developments. Overall, the project consists of 49 acres. Within the planned unit development as it is written, it allows for 2 options. The developer picks one of the 2 prior to development. Option A would be 162 single-family units, that's single-family detached units, for a density of 3.3 units per acre. Option B would be 135 single-family units detached and 60 townhouses for a density of 3.97 units per acre. Under Concept A, which is the 162 single-family detached lots, you have a maximum of 60 lots that are 50 feet wide. That's 50 by 110, so you get 5,500 square feet and a 1,500 square feet minimum house size. And you have a minimum of 102 lots that are 60 feet wide. That gives you 60 by 110 lots for 6,600 square feet and a 1,700 square foot minimum house size. That's 3.3 units per acre. You get 35, and under both options, you're going to get the 35% open space, the setbacks, single-family uses, design and architectural standards, dark sky lighting requirements. I believe we have written in that PUD gutters for houses on lots that are smaller than 60 feet wide. 25-foot buffer around the entire property, 35% open space, wetlands protection, irrigation controls to use water-wise, Florida-friendly landscaping, such as no St. Augustine grass, but you can use Bermuda Bahia as a zoysia. Under Concept B, you get the same conditions with the exception of you get 56 lots that are 50 feet wide, 79 lots 60 feet wide, and a maximum of 60 lots of townhouses for 3.95 units per acre. There is a 0.9 acre recreational space also required. I forgot to mention that. Candy Harper, Senior Planner with the office, will present the maps and photo exhibits, including the aerial zoning, future and surrounding land use, wetlands flood zone, and CRA maps.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I guess this is on. The map before you is an aerial showing where the property is located in the city. There's Silver Lake is taking up part of the right-hand side of the screen. And that's County Road 44 that comes off of 441 that is to the south. And the zoning around the area is planned unit development if you're in the city, and there's a great deal of that. And Lake County zoning shows a mix of agricultural and R1 and R2 zoning, and a little bit, yeah, it's R3 zoning. So it's a developing area. And the proposed zoning is planned unit development with the conditions that Mr. Miller just mentioned. The future land use around it is, for the most part, estate residential. If you're in the city, a little bit of high-density residential closer to 441. And Lake County future land use is rural transition or rural low density. And the proposed future land use is estate residential in the city. The surrounding land uses to the north, what you see right now is pasture land, but you've already approved the hills at Leesburg, so that's under a PUD with residential development as well. And then it's mostly surrounded by single-family residential. There are some wetlands on the site that will have to be dealt with in the site plan review. And I added the community redevelopment area so that you could see where it is on 441 and going up County Road 44. And it is in Commission District 1. And we took pictures of our posting which was a little harrowing. I had to climb a hill. So the picture on the top is looking west into the property, and it shows our posting. The picture on the bottom is looking north along County Road 44. And the next picture is looking east on County Road 44 along the street. Across the street is Spring Creek. Picture on the bottom is looking south on County Road 44. And we did post it in two different places because of the configuration of the property. So the picture on the top again is looking west into the property, showing the posting. The picture on the bottom is looking north on County Road 44. Picture on the top is looking across the street on County Road 44. And the picture on the bottom is looking south on County Road 44. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Candy.
Can I interrupt just for a minute? I forgot to announce that I'll be stepping down for this case, so I'm involved in the sale.
Please note that Commissioner Sennett has stepped aside because of his involvement in this project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving on to the departmental review summary, the project was sent out to all the city departments, Lake County government, and the school board. Under comments, Lake County Public Works sent a letter back, mostly regarding right-of-way, as if the project goes all the way through to City Commission and is approved, the applicant will have to work with Lake County under the review process and provide adequate right-of-way. And because it's Lake County road, they will need to do whatever in terms of turn lanes or signalization or anything like that that is potentially required. Under Lake County Schools, the project is subject to school concurrency review. They did note that proportionate share mitigation may be required at the time of submittal. Under public responses, those took care of all the department comments. The city didn't have any substantial comments on it. There were two disapprovals with comments. One from Mr. John Ulrich stated his concerns about congestion, and the other from Renato Jaber says Catrale owns and operates property on the western boundary of the site. The Catrale believes a residential development is incompatible with the disposal site activities. So those were those two. And then moving to the staff recommendation for these two projects. Under case number SSCP 22-173, the small-scale comp plan amendment to estate residential for the Swan Capital Project, Planning and Zoning Division is recommending approval of this request for the following reasons. One, the project meets the requirements of Chapter 163.31871, parentheses C, Florida statutes for small-scale comprehensive plan amendments. Two, the proposed future land use designation of estate residential is compatible with the current surrounding future land use categories of City of Leesburg estate residential, Lake County rural transition, and Lake County urban low density. Three, the proposed future land use designation of estate residential is compatible with the proposed zoning of PUD plan unit development and does not appear to create a detriment to the adjacent zoning districts of Lake County A agriculture, Lake County R1 rural residential, and Lake County R2 estate residential. And four, the proposed future land use designation for the site is consistent with the city's growth management plan, future land use element, goal 1, objective 1.6. The action requested is to vote to approve the staff's recommendation to rezone the subject property from Lake County rural transition. Vote to approve the staff's recommendation to amend the future land use map from Lake County rural transition to City of Leesburg estate residential and forward this recommendation to the City Commission for their consideration. Under the recommendation for the planned unit development zoning, which comes under PUD 22-174, Silver Lake Property Swan Capital Partners, Planning and Zoning Division is recommending approval of this request for the following reasons. One, the proposed request is compatible with the current surrounding zoning districts of Lake County A agriculture, Lake County R1 rural residential, and Lake County R2 estate residential. As conditioned, the proposed use does not appear to be detrimental to the surrounding properties. 2, the proposed zoning district of planned unit development as conditioned and shown in the attached Exhibit A is compatible with the existing city future land use designation of estate residential. 3, the rezoning of the subject property is consistent with the city's growth management plan, future land use element goal 1 and objective 1.6. The request is to vote to approve staff's recommendation to rezone the subject property from Lake County A Agriculture and Lake County R1 Rural Residential to City of Leesburg PUD and forward this recommendation to the City Commission for their consideration. Mr. Chairman, if you like, we can go over the requirements of the PUD again. I believe Mr. Greg Beliveau, Mr. Mike Rankin, and Mr. Eric Swanson are here to represent the property and answer any questions you may have.
Step forward, Greg.
Good afternoon, Greg Beliveau with LPG, and I'd like to say that this is probably going to be the last time you're going to see me. Unless Mike says that he's got to drag me out because it's another one that I have to come in here and harass you because the project's going to be pretty bad.
There is a God.
Yes, there is, because I am retiring. Yes, and he is faithful. This project before you, we provided some of the graphics to the staff, and we wanted to show that one of the things about this project, it's a stepping stone project in its density. As staff brought up, the projects south of us are pretty much multifamily in nature, and the average density is around 5.5 to 7 units per acre. And then from there, the density tapers up and gets lower as it goes north on 44 towards Haynes Creek. But right in our vicinity, you've got 5.5, you got 2.81, and 3.1 across the street, which is the Roebuck PUD that was approved north of Silver Lake. We have two options, and one is a strictly single-family option, and one is the option that has single-family and also has a townhouse option for about 60 units. As staff pointed out, everything else in the project stays exactly the same. The open space is the same, the amenities are the same, everything else is the same. The environmental analysis that was done for the project came out, the only thing we have are gopher tortoises. Again, we can mitigate those under the St. John's permits. We had a traffic analysis performed, and the traffic analysis came up that we're within the level of service. Again, we have to work with, obviously, Lake County Public Works, work with Seth and Fred to figure out, what kind of turn lanes we have to do, et cetera, like we had to do with the project just south of us. If there is some right-of-way considerations, we'll work with that and have to, work out how many feet they want. We had to, provide some right-of-way on the project south. Those are the things you have to do to make things work. Those are expectations you have whenever you do anything on county roads these days. So those are the things that we have that we're working with. Now, project specific, these two, and looking at them, like I said, they're basically exactly mirror images of each other. The wetlands on the south are undisturbed. And we're leaving everything basically on the south, 10 to 15%. Those are all passive recreation and recreation amenities and water retention. Again, on the north side, where the other subdivision you've approved, the PUD's approved, is water retention, and we only have a handful of lots abutting those and the water retention activities. And again, that's the same on both plans. There's no difference between the two. We have the large lots abutting our neighbor to the west on both scenarios. So taking into consideration our neighbors, we put the larger lots here, we put the larger lots here. No difference. So the only difference between the two, and I have to say that the option of bringing in this market was actually suggested by a few of our city fathers. They suggested this component to expand the marketplace. They felt this marketplace being single family was okay, and that's something that the city of Leesburg needs because of the market needs we have here, and they like to see the marketplace here expanded because we have a housing shortage. it's acute housing shortage in the single-family market. This provides not 2 market options, but this provides 3. And the 3 here, these 2 basically the same as these. So you're in the same market range. This one opens up a market range that's provided to now a group that you're providing single-family options, even though they're attached, at a market rate slightly lower. So you're introducing a 3rd. But they still get the options of fee simple ownership. So that's why we're asking for option 2. That's it in a nutshell. And everything works out the same. This provides the same. It doesn't impact the level of service any more than this one, because the traffic analysis was done on the worst case scenario. So we came up with the same impacts. We're still within the same realms. The school analysis was done on the worst case scenario. So everything was done worst case. So we're still within all the parameters that we submitted. And we have no issues with the PUD conditions, so I'll be glad to answer any questions. I would like to pass out for you to look at is the entry features, the clubhouse. This is all first rate. It's going to have a beautiful entry feature. Features here and here are going to be rather extensive coming in. You look at, we have tree-lined main entry features coming in, or main streets coming in. They're all going to be tree-lined. So this is going to be pretty first class.
Greg, is this going to be owner-occupied, or
Yes.
Is it going to be all owner-occupied?
Yes, sir.
Any of the commission have any questions of Mr. Bellevaux?
I do, and I don't know if Greg can answer it or not. I'll miss you, Greg. The Citrelli issue, I don't know if he's the one to answer that. How does that affect the area? You know, what they're saying,
Well, there's spray fields on this direction. It's going to have the same effect as it has with the single-family PUD to the north of us. The same effect as it has with the developments that are north, and so it's the same. I mean, we're going to have the issues that are to the people north of us on ours. I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. When we do our core borings, and when the geotechs do that type of research, they'll have to look at to see if there's anything that's there. Catrelli and before them, Minute Maid, were using this as a overflow spray site for decades. So they'll have to do their testing to see what's going on in the. But that's I don't think that's going to be an issue. What we can do is put a condition in anybody who buys out there, then notify them that there is a spray field site to the west. Just put them on notice. I don't know if you put that same condition in the PUD north of us, but
that's why I was wondering why I recalled it coming up in the past.
Right. Mr. Chairman, we do have some standard language that we can put in place in this condition to notify that there's a spray field use.
Yes, I agree.
And I don't see that as a problem. In fact, my father was one of the ones who built the first stainless steel concentrate tanks that Mint made when it was there back in the 70s, and I was the one dancing in the containers, making sure they were settled. Town. Yeah, that was
in a stainless steel container.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember that not too fondly.
Okay.
But
all right. Yeah. Any questions of more questions of Mr. Bellevaux? Is there anyone here in the audience that wants to address this or have any questions? Okay, I'll close this for public discussion. Any discussion amongst the commission?
Yes. Same thing I'm always concerned about.
You pull the mic close to you, John.
Is the traffic and the improvement of Highway 44. Same condition exists on Highway 27 going south. We've already got in Lake County near Leesburg about 27,000 homes already approved for development throughout the area, if not more. The existing zoning, as I understand, is agriculture, which allows, I think, one house per 5-acre tract in Lake County. And if it's also zoned rural residential, I believe the density is 1 house per 1 acre, if that's the case. Is all this property in Lake County?
Yes.
At this point, okay. Obviously, the commissioner, city commission has apparently approved an adjoining development to the south, north? North. That been approved by the city commission? Dan?
That one is going through the process. It is not through the process yet. I believe it had its first hearing.
It has been.
The one north of that.
The one north was, forgive me, I've got too many projects in my head.
Jenkins was the
Right.
one.
Did that one go through? We've got 2 or 3 along here.
Yeah.
Do you
It
recall?
should have been through by now. 'Cause that
Hills
was
of
actually
Leesburg has been
forest.
through the public review process and has been approved.
The Hills, okay, yes.
Is that adjoining or just a little bit? Okay. Well, my concerns will probably continue on these developments coming through here is the size of the lots, the density, and traffic that's going on that Highway 44 corridor. So even though it looks like a nice plan, I would be opposed to it. Okay. For those reasons.
Yeah. Dan, have you heard anything in the pipeline about 44 as far as 4-laning or widening it?
I have not. In the way development works, and this is really hard to understand, but it's quite simple. When you get enough people out there, there's enough political pressure to get the roads widened. And that sounds kind of harsh, but
Yeah.
and I don't know because I know that Mr. Bellevaux has some contacts that he might reach out to or may have reached out to in the past in terms of, I have not specifically heard of anything yet.
Kind
I
of takes planning
anticipate
out of the
that-
equation.
I'm sorry?
Kind of takes planning out of the
Well,
equation sometimes.
It's a county road, and as it develops, the demand for the widening will be there. There's no question about that.
I mean, logically, that should have been widened 10 years ago. And the county's not going to act until we put 50,000 people
I
along
think
that
you
road.
guys speak into the microphone, Al.
I said, this should have been 4-lane 10 years ago with the traffic out there.
I agree.
And the way it flows now, I don't see the county being proactive on any of it. And the only way to do it is put 50,000 residents along 44 and force them to go ahead and widen it. And then you wait for 5 years of road construction while they do it.
Yes, Mr. Bellevaux.
The only one that Seth keeps waiting for is the one at the very top. But here's the one that scares him. This is the one that he feels is going to be the trigger for 44 and being the one that, because the unit count on that one is so high.
995 on that one.
Is that an approved project?
Yes.
Is that in the city limits?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. That's before I was on the board.
And that's the one he feels that when that one starts coming in for its site plans and plating and all that, is the one that he feels is going to be the trigger that wakes them up because of the amount of units that are approved. Because that not only has units, it also has commercial approved here and here.
Okay.
And
I wasn't aware of
so
that.
that's the one that he feels he can make comments on, but their size and scale he can extract right away from, but financially those projects, and I don't represent anybody else here, the size and scale of those projects can't afford to,
Greg,
provide any major road improvements because they can't afford it.
is that prior to getting to Dead River?
It's prior to getting Haynes Creek.
I mean, Haynes Creek.
Yes. It abuts Haynes Creek.
Okay.
So that's the last in the meetings I've had with them in discussion on projects on 44.
Well, the comp plan says that's going to develop out there. I mean, it's how it develops is what's important. We need to determine Plan A or Plan B, or does that option remain open?
That option remains with the developer. We like to do that because the market changes from time to time.
Okay.
And if the single families are selling and everything's going smooth, they'll go that direction. Leesburg has traditionally not done real super well with duplexes, townhomes, stuff like that. But leaving the option there allows them to work the market rather than the government to define that for them.
It's kind of like the market making the decision instead of us. Okay. Any more discussion? Any more questions at all? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve SSCP 22-173.
I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Please.
interject? Did that motion, Commissioner Holliday, include the
Wastewater?
spray field use notification?
Yes.
Yes, it
Thank you,
is.
sir. Yes.
Thanks for reminding me of
Yes,
that.
sir.
Moving right on to number 2, old business of the rezoning. Trying to find it. When we go into computer?
We were planning for next month.
Today.
We're hoping to be able to do that next month. I don't know for sure
Because
yet.
I just got paper cuts.
I get tired of turning pages. All right, PUD 22174, Swan Lake, planned unit development zoning.
On the zoning, the actual, okay, my mistake, Mr. Chairman. The condition for the notification of the spray field use needs to be on this vote, not
On the
the
zoning.
planning commission, not
Okay.
the future land use vote. My error.
Okay, being that we've already discussed it, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve PUD 22-174 with the amendment on the notification of the wastewater irrigation.
Regarding Catrali.
Yes.
Very good. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving right along. We're out of old business and we're starting to get into new business. Tim, you're back on board, buddy. Old business. I thought there was only 2 on old business. Is Trinity
This one-
Industrial?
This,
Okay.
I think this is old business.
That was
as
old
well.
business, too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was looking for new business.
My-
All right, introducing variance 22369, Trinity Industrial Access variance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in regard to property generally located south of Tally Road, east of Leesburg Commons Court, and west of Tally Box Road. Incorporates approximately 2.47 plus or minus acres. This is a request for a variance from Section 4A, Site Access of Ordinance 09106. The purpose is to allow an additional access point along Tally Box Road, which doesn't show up on this screen, right down here in the corner. This is Tally Road. This is the subject property. Your Tally Road to the north, and to the east here is Tally Box Road. Within the Leesburg Commons Court development, there is one access point. Recently, in the past, I want to say 2 years, one building has been built on this site. Another building will be built soon, and the petitioner is requesting an additional access point right here in the corner, toward the bottom, the southern part of this lot. This lot being the only true corner lot within that development, and they do get some large vehicles coming through there. It will make access easier and safer. So we're actually asking to amend the existing PUD, which is under Ordinance 09106, stating that there's only this one access point. Candy Harper, Senior Planner with the office, will present the maps and photo exhibits of the aerial zoning, future land use, surrounding land use, wetland, flood zone maps, and CRA.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. The map on the screen before you is an aerial locating the site in the city of Leesburg, like Mr. Miller said, corner of Tally Box and Tally Road. The zoning is an old zoning we don't use anymore, which is commercial industrial plan. Future land use is industrial. The surrounding land uses are commercial, light manufacturing, business park, and warehousing. And the surrounding existing land uses are business center offices, commercial, light manufacture, warehousing, and business park. And the next map before you is the wetlands and flood zones. They are high and dry. The community redevelopment area is Carver Heights. It is in Commission District 2. And these pictures are really interesting. They're going to show you the grade of the site going down to Tally Box Road. So again, I had to climb a hill. The picture on the top is shooting west into the property from Tally Box Road, and the next one is just a close-up of our posting of the site. It's also looking west into the property. Picture on the top is looking north on Tally Box Road. Picture on the bottom is looking west on Tally Box Road. Picture on the top is looking south along Tally Box Road. And the picture on the bottom is looking south into the property on Tally Box Road. We did post on 2 separate streets because it is a corner lot. So the picture to the north, let's see, where are you? The picture to the north is looking west on Tally Box, and the picture on the bottom is looking north on Tally Road. I'm sorry, Tally Road. Picture on the top is looking east on Tally Road, and the picture on the bottom is looking west into the property on Greenleaf Lane. We did post it 3 times, that's right, because there's 3 road frontages. Picture on the top is looking south on Greenleaf. Picture on the bottom is looking west on Greenleaf, and this picture is looking north on Greenleaf Lane. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Candy. Under the departmental review summary, as this was a variance, we didn't receive anything back from the departments of any specific comments. We did not receive any public responses back from the surrounding property owner letters, newspaper advertisement, or the sign posting that Candy mentioned. At this point, I'd like to go ahead and read the recommendation for case number variance 22334, variance to section 4A, site access, PUD 06-106, Fraternity Industrial Phase 2 at 1720 Leesburg Commons Court. The Planning and Zoning Division recommends approval of this request for the following reasons. 1, the proposed request is to allow an additional access on Tally Box Road for Lot 9 of Leesburg Commons Business Park to facilitate access and economic activity. 2, the proposed request on this 2.47-acre lot will facilitate use and construction of a second building on the property and create additional jobs and economic activity in the industrial sector. 3, this variance to the current CIP, Commercial Industrial Plan zoning, does not create a negative impact or detriment to surrounding properties, the City of Leesburg Code of Ordinances, or the adopted comprehensive plan. The action requested is vote to approve staff's recommendation to allow variance to section 4A, site access, PUD 06-106, thereby allowing a second point of access on Lot 9 of Leesburg Commons Industrial Park. Mr. Chairman, staff is recommending approval, and Mr. Jason Hurley of Springstead Engineering is here if you have any questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I don't think we have any questions. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion We approve variance 22-334.
I have a
Second.
motion for approval and I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
Haven't seen a right hand, Al.
Sorry,
Motion carries.
I noticed we have a different one. Is the variance number different on this one? Front page says 22-369, the back page says 22-334.
We will check that and make sure. I believe it was 369.
Okay.
The final page I have in my book which says
334?
334.
It does on mine as well.
John called out.
Good eye.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
whichever one it
Let's
is.
amend that to 22369.
We'll do that. Thank
Just
you.
approve both?
And we will make that correction. I appreciate
have to
the
put two roads in.
correction.
All right, now we're going into new business, gentlemen. Public hearing case LSCP 22338 Cedar Creek Residential Subdivision, large-scale comp plan amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. By way of background, these two cases, we have the LSCP 22338, which is the large-scale comp plan, and the PUD 22-339, which is the plan unit development zoning.
Correct.
The property is generally located east of County Road 33 and north of Manor Oaks Court and north of the Turnpike. It consists of approximately 59.6 plus or minus acres. The request is to amend the comprehensive plan, future land use map of the city, changing the future land use designation of the property from industrial to estate residential, and then on the zoning side, changing the zoning from this property from M1 industrial to PUD, which is plan unit development. This request will allow, if approved by the City Commission, will allow for detached single-family residential development. It is, again, 59.6 plus or minus acres. They're requesting 141 units at 2.35 units per acre. There's a mix of 50 and 60-foot lots. You get a maximum of 70 lots at 50 by 120, which is 6,000 square feet, and you get a minimum 1,500 square foot house. A minimum of 71 lots at 60 by 120, which is 7,200 square feet, and you'll get a 1,700 square foot minimum house size. So you get 35% open space, the standard setbacks, single-family uses only, and again, design standards for the houses, dark sky lighting requirements, which is the shielding or directing of light inward, gutters on the houses for lots smaller than 60 feet wide, landscape and buffers of 25 feet around the entire property, trees in each yard, wetlands protection, and of course the Florida-friendly that we talked about earlier, and no St. Augustine grass, but Bermuda Bahia zoysia. There is, again, a recreational area required. I believe that one was also 0.9 acres. Candy Harper will present the maps and exhibits at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. The map on the screen for you locates the property in its location in the city. It is east of County Road 44, east of County Road 33, and north of the Turnpike. The zoning is currently industrial, but you can see it's surrounded by planned unit developments. And Lake County zoning to the north of it is industrial with PUD located south of the property. We did make the note as asked to add a map that talks about industrial lands adjacent to commercial, so that map is included to be very specific about that requirement. The proposed zoning is planned unit development, so it will match just about everything around it. The future land use is currently industrial, and Lake County industrial is north of it. And again, the industrial land use is shown. It's reflected on the future land use map. And the proposed future land use is estate residential. The proposed future land use, the proposed future land use is estate residential, and the existing land uses are industrial and warehousing to the north pasture lands to the west, agricultural to the south, and everywhere else it is residential. There are a few wetlands and flood zones on the site that they'll have to deal with in the site plan process. You can see the wetland there. I believe they have plans to design around that. It is in Commission District 3 to the south of the city. This property also had 2 rights of way. One was on Manor Oaks Court. So that picture on the top is looking north into the site. The picture on the bottom is looking east on Manor Oaks Court. Picture on the top is looking south across the street from where we posted the site. Picture on the bottom is looking west on Manor Oaks Court. And then we went around to County Road 33 and took a picture, posted the property and took a picture shooting east into the property. Picture on the bottom is looking south on County Road 33. The picture on the top is looking west on County Road 33, and the picture on the bottom is looking north on County Road 33. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Candy. Under the departmental review summary, the project was sent out to all the city departments, Lake County government, school board. We received no substantive comments from the departments. Under public responses, we received 2 responses from the surrounding property owner, letters, newspaper advertisement, and sign posting. One was a written response from Mr. Daniel Sarkeesian. He noted security along the fence lane on Manor Oaks Court should be addressed first, then widening of State Road 33 to the red light at intersection 470 and 48, and then he noted that the traffic with heavy trucks is terrible. And again, we're in the same point as we were on the previous case on County Road 33. As things develop along this area, and as you saw at our July meeting, south of the Turnpike, there's potential development there. There's potentially plans to expand infrastructure in that area. So this is the same situation, although I don't think it's nearly as bad as far as the traffic counts, where the development comes and then there's pressure to widen the roads. And that is, unfortunate as that is, no one's going to build a road and wait on the houses to come. You know, it's not financially sound practice. But we do think that this project will not have a significant impact on the roads.
Okay.
And then looking at the recommendation, if I can look at those, read those briefly into the record. For LSCP 22-338, change in the future land use designation to allow for a single-family residential subdivision for Cedar Creek Equity Investments, Planning and Zoning Division is recommending approval of this request for the following reasons. 1, the project meets the requirements of Chapter 163.3184, parentheses 2, Florida statutes for large-scale comp plan amendments. The proposed future land use designation of a state residential is compatible with the current surrounding future land use categories of Lake County Industrial, Lake County Urban Low Density, and Neighborhood Mixed Use. 3, the proposed future land use designation of estate is compatible with the proposed zoning of city PUD, planned unit development, and does not appear as conditioned to create a detriment to the adjacent zoning districts of Lake County Heavy Industrial, Lake County PUD, and City PUD. The proposed future land use designation under number 4, it states is that this proposed future land use designation is consistent with the city's growth management plan, future land use element, goal 1, objective 1.6. The action requested is vote to approve the staff's recommendation to change the future land use of the subject property from City of Leesburg Industrial to City of Leesburg Estate Residential and forward to the City Commission for their consideration. Under the PUD item that's also being discussed today, for case number PUD 22339, Cedar Creek Residential Subdivision, the Planning and Zoning Division recommends approval of this request for the following reasons. The proposed request is compatible with the current surrounding zoning districts of Lake County HM Heavy Industrial, Lake County PUD, and City PUD. As conditioned, the proposed use does not appear to be detrimental to surrounding properties. to the proposed zoning district of PUD as conditioned and shown in the attached Exhibit A is compatible with the existing future land use designation of estate residential. 3, the rezoning of the subject properties is consistent with the city's growth management plan, future land use element goal 1 and objective 1.6, and the action requested is vote to approve staff's recommendation to rezone the subject property from City of Leesburg M1 Industrial to City of Leesburg PUD Plan Unit Development and forward the recommendation to the City Commission for consideration. And if I may request that you turn back to the zoning map for us, please. One more. Okay. Mr. Chairman, as you can see, the brown around here, the tan color, these are all existing PUDs. Here we have Arlington Ridge. We have the PUD over here with 1,900 units in it, an old PUD here. I think it's called I-85. The industrial portion runs along 33. This is the area that's currently cleared for the assisted living facility that'll go in here. This is a 55-plus community in Arlington Ridge. Plantation here is a 55-plus community. I do not know, and the city does not restrict whether something can be a 55-plus community or not. We can ask the applicant on that one. But whether or not it's a 55-plus community, it fits in with the residential, the surrounding residential development that's in the city and in the county. The industrial development here is in the county, but the rest of this colored area is in the city. The aerial portions are in the county. But as you can see, it's clearly surrounded by single family of the same lot size, density, and type and use as is already approved in that area.
And that's zoned industrial.
Been zoned industrial for many years.
Get rid of a bit of industrial in the middle of the residential.
Yes, sir. It's turned into an unintended spot of industrial.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, similar to the old business, it would be completely appropriate to discuss new business items 1 and 2 together. I don't recall if it was clarified when we launched into the new business or not, but just to clarify that point, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. It's been standard operating procedure, seems like, but that's why you make the big bucks, Grant.
That's right. That's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. I see there's a gentleman here named George Waters that wants to speak regarding this issue.
What about that?
Is the applicant here? Excuse me, George. Let's start with the applicant first. I'm getting way ahead of myself.
No, I want to hear the applicant. Yeah. He might answer my question.
There you go. Good point. Thank you, Tim.
Greg Bellava with LPG, representing Cedar Creek Equity. One of the things we did when we looked at this was, besides this thing being a hole in the donut of industrial surrounded by these residential PUDs, one of the things we noticed is that they had this power line easement running straight across the north boundary line, and it ran across not only ours, but it also ran on the southern end of the industrial track. So it provided another buffer to that industrial track running north of us. And when we looked at the property, that provides a buffer, which is 170 feet wide, by the way. That easement's 170 feet wide, and it has, you notice we actually put in gray 2 kV power poles that are right in those 2 locations. But the rest of it's all open space. So we have that as a natural buffer between us and Arlington Ridge. And we put a park in this location.
Dan.
And we put a park in this location as another buffer to the industrial to the north. We put a water retention area here, and we have plantations to the south. The other thing we found, this was a new design. Did you notice how the road kind of jogs around the pond? After we got done doing the initial design work, our client went to the expense of doing a tree survey. If you look at the aerial, this site is very heavily treed. And we went out, and when he did the tree survey, we actually cataloged all of the trees over 30 inches. Anything that was, we felt, some cities call them historic trees, some of them call them heritage trees. They all have, well, anything that was over 30 inches, we cataloged them and put a red dot. And that caused us to move the road, caused us to move lots, and it caused us to basically provide more open space. So that's why this open space is here, these red dots are here, this open space is here, and the road jogged here, and we lost lots here. And we basically preserved those trees. And anything south of that size, we were allowed to take out per your code and mitigate those within the rest of the open space and put in the buffer areas, augment their buffers with them, as well as put them in the yards and anywhere else that we have to augment, because we have to basically replace and mitigate, which we will do. I mean, they'll come in when we do the site plan and do the landscape plans for that at that phase. So we will augment the replacements at that point. But we wanted to point out that on this one, when we saw those size trees, we stopped and we redesigned. And we said, nope, they're staying. And we felt that that would be a good augmentation to the project, and the people that are going to live here will enjoy those canopies, and we just have to move what we have to move to make it happen. This is not going to be a plus 55 community. One of the reasons is that we have enough plus 55 communities running around right now. If you go down 470 and look to the right before you get to the Sumter County line, you'll notice there are a lot of excavation going on. There's quite a few new plus 55 homes going to be built in that location. So we think that you're going to need a lot more folks that are going to be working here, needing a place to live. I can give you the real stats on that. I've run them. I don't think you need to hear those tonight, but I can give them to you, but I won't bore you with those unless you really want to know. But, you know, we do need workers, housing for workers. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Belleville?
I have one. So these lots, the homes that are going to be presented on them, what is the average price?
The price range for these are going to be in the low 300s and up, and that's only based on today's prices. Unfortunately, price of materials these days are what price of materials are. If you asked me 2 years ago, it would have been starting in the low 200s and going up. But price of materials these days is what's fluctuating the price of homes. And that's unfortunately the rule of thumb. Unfortunately, that's where we are. I do ask, one of the things came up was traffic. Everybody talks about traffic. I have great news for you. Because this site was industrial, both in land use and in zoning, traffic is higher than it is for the single family, because of the quantity of industrial that you could get here, because of how much impact you can do to this site under the county's LDRs and land use. You can impact this site to a greater degree of impervious surface, ISR, FAR. So the amount of impact on here for the industrial use is higher and more intense. So with the single family at 2.3 units per acre, traffic impact drops. So we create less traffic with this than with the industrial. So we have less impacts for traffic. We're able to save more trees, and we have more open space with the residential design than with the industrial design. So we provide actually some benefit to provide this option versus the industrial option.
And those potential residents would not have to put up with an industrial site, or the existing residents would not have to put up with the industrial site that could go in there.
Correct. Well, and this is what happened with, and I won't name the PUD, but when a PUD first opened and there was an expansion in the county, on a county piece of property, by permit, they got upset because of the noise, the dust, and everything else.
I think I remember that.
So this is taking away that potential greatly. And will also, by requirement, and we're going to put a condition that this is adjacent to an industrial land use and industrial zoning, so that these folks are already aware that the folks north of us are industrial.
Right.
Also, for information, in case anybody's here from Plantation, on Manor Oaks, we only have an emergency access. We do not have a direct access. It's only emergency. It's going to be gated, and so the access is only emergency. Our main access is off 33.
Okay.
So that we do not have our folks coming in and out off of anything off of Plantation.
Okay. All right.
And I'll be glad to answer any of your questions or theirs if they still have it.
Any questions of Mr. Beliveau from this commission? Mr. Waters, you're up, sir. Just please state your name for the record and where you live.
George Waters, 3810 Westover Circle in the Plantation. My back lot is adjacent to Manor Oaks Court, and so I see the trees.
Okay.
I have to apologize. I'm not as well organized as I should be because I didn't even know this meeting existed until 1:30 this afternoon, so please bear with me. You did answer a lot of questions. Thank you very much. Our concern was severalfold. One is traffic, which he's indicated will not be on Manor Oaks Court. And in case there's some consideration of that, I was on the board of directors for Plantation not too long ago. And we noticed that about 30% of the residents and about 50% of the vendors use that road because we're access only to outsiders and ingress from residents. And I hope you don't mix the ingress coming off of Manor Oaks.
We're not accessing it.
Okay. The other concern that we have as the Plantation is that there's some security provided from people coming over from that development and into the Plantation using our facilities. We're having an issue with that right now to the south where White Marsh is. And people come in, they walk up a couple of blocks, and they use our swimming pools, and they use our facilities, and they are accused, rightly or wrongly, break-ins in vehicles and so on and so forth. So we do not want that to happen, and we would request that you look at building a wall or fence along Manor Oaks and then up towards Arlington Ridge, because we're all adjacent in there, and while their facilities are farther away, it's easy to come in and go around. And that is a problem with White Marsh that we haven't been able to identify. I'm disappointed it's not going to be 55 plus, but it'd be very difficult to provide the amenities on that size land for the type of community 55 and older would agree with. I'm not opposing it, okay? I'm just saying that we need to mitigate it so that we are still secure, which is why we bought into the property at the Plantation, that we're secure. We're not going to have people wandering in and out. You could make it $500,000 homes, and that might help too. But that is our main concern, and I think I speak for most of the residents who are aware of this project. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Beliveau, would you like to rebut that?
Well, I think I can get back with my client about doing a wall on the south side and see if that's something we can add to the buffer requirements. But as far as, I think that's about the only thing we can do. I mean, I run into this same issue when I do projects next to the villages with market rate projects. And
you know, a fence works both ways.
Yeah. So.
And I agree with this gentleman's concern with security, and I would like to see that added to your plan.
But I think we can do it on the south side. Once you get past this point where the water retention pond is,
right.
We can't do it here because we can't impede access to the
power easement.
Power easements. I mean, they've got to get access to them. So
we're applicable.
Okay.
don't know how to spell that, but I got it out.
But I mean, I think as far as, applying it, because we have a buffer already built into the project along the south
Correct.
side, I mean, that I think probably something we can accomplish.
Okay. Any more questions, Mr. Belleville?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, in doing so, is that going to affect the housing price? And also, is the entryway just the open entry? It's a non-gated?
No, it's not gated. No, it's not. Well, obviously, the emergency access is, but this access is not. This is all public roads. It's all non-gated. No, it's something similar that you're seeing built, on south of Leesburg now.
And my other question do you think the developer is that going to greatly affect the home costs?
It shouldn't, no. You can build walls now in several different fashions. There are different techniques. They aren't all concrete block. They're all different types. Unfortunately, I got one client that your gas department, we found out is it's going to look like a decorative wall, but we found it's being considered a blast wall because of the major gas line that's going right by my project. You ought to see that mother. I mean, it's a beaut. But I don't think we're going to have that problem here.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve LSCP 22-338.
I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Move right on to item number 2.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I just interrupt for a second?
Of course.
Mr. Belleville, is that your last presentation for the night?
Yes, sir.
At this time, I'd like to just recognize Greg Belleville. He was Planning and Zoning Director at Leesburg, I believe, in the late 1970s or early 80s when I first met him when we were both young men. And he's had a very successful career on his own, but he did wonderful things for the city of Leesburg, and I just want to say to Greg, thank you for your service to Lake County.
Well, I will reiterate that, even though we have butted heads a couple of times.
Not more than 2, yeah.
But I remember that. But I thought it was in the 50s. Okay.
I'm not that old.
Okay, moving right along for PUD 22339. I'll entertain a motion.
Could that motion include the requirement for a fence, please?
Yes.
On the south side?
Yes.
And I believe there was also a comment about notification of the adjacent industrial parcel as well, Mr. Chairman.
To buyers.
Yes. To explain complete, full disclosure of that to a buyer.
Backing up, did we include the same thing for the project on 33 in regards to trailing?
No, ma'am, we've done that.
No, I'm just asking, did we do the same thing for that trailer? We did?
Yes, ma'am. I think I've got that in my notes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
case number PUD 22-339, I move to approve with the 2 additions.
2 additions, that's disclosure and fence.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Grant. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving right along. Public hearing case number ORD 22 blank.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't have a number on it.
No, that's a, I don't have it either. Hang on 1 second.
It's a surprise.
Okay. It is Amendment 22-391.
Amendment.
A bunch of numbers involved with this case. So the actual,
ORD 223 what?
the AMDT 22-391 is the case number for this particular case.
Right.
Okay, I see it now. Thank you, Tim.
My pleasure.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, a few years ago, the villages began expanding their development footprint into the city of Leesburg. Those cases came before this commission. The villages operates by requesting each city that they work with to adopt the codes that they use for their development into each city's code of ordinances. In other words, the villages ask us to adopt their portion of the codes for their areas, the lifestyle codes, so to speak. So that this allows them to use the same development standards and requirements across all areas that they develop, whether it's in Marion, Sumter, Lake County, and whichever city it's in. The system that they're using is actually very efficient. It works very well. The city of Leesburg did adopt the village's zoning and land use codes, and this is just for the areas that the villages occupies. Again, it's not for the rest of the city. So as this project has developed, and I know that you understand that along County Road 470 on the north side, a year from today, there will be 3,200 houses out there. That'll kick up our population by about 5,600 people, something like that. We are at 28,883, according to the University of Florida Bureau of Economic and Business Research, as of April 1st of this year. As they are developing, they are looking at their codes, and some of the things that they did not adopt at that time are what they're asking us to do now. Staff has reviewed them and finds no issues with them, and I'd like to summarize rather than read the entire long recommendation. If that's okay, if I could just summarize it. For example, Chapter 5 has the sale of alcoholic beverages and some changes to medical marijuana. Apparently, the folks from the 60s are still in the 60s.
That could be taken to the
In Chapter 15, some changes about hotels, sound trucks, and amplifying devices. For example, they have a lot of outdoor activities that we, as a city, would require a special event.
Correct.
Whereas they have them every, I guess, just about every night.
Yeah.
You know,
Every 5 o'clock.
Yeah. And then Chapter 18, parades and golf carts. They use golf carts everywhere. Right. Chapter 25 is carnivals, vending, bicycle parking, some things that they want to change. And then Chapters 26, the special events permitting. For example, if you were going to have a concert outside in Leesburg today with amplified music, you would need a special events permit. Or if it's a gathering of a certain number of people or greater. We as a staff have reviewed these amendments, and there's no negative impacts on the city. This will only apply in the village's area, and it'll be the same thing that they're using in the remainder of the village's area. So with that, basically is because there's so much development rapidly occurring within the ARD, which is age-restricted development, future land use and zoning, which that makes up the village's area. These type of things with carnivals, circuses, golf carts, parades, vending, bicycle parking, special events. These are of no negative impact at all to the city of Leesburg. In fact, will allow the villages, people who move in there, to maintain that type of lifestyle. And of course, it brings tax dollars and utilities to the city. So the staff is recommending approval, and the action we're requesting is to vote to approve these proposed amendments to the city's land development regulations and forward them to the city for the consideration.
Okay. Is anyone in the audience here to speak on this at all?
Good afternoon, Celia Dorn on behalf of the villages. If you all have any other additional questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Any questions? I don't think so. I think we are pretty happy with what you're asking.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, case number AMDT 22-391, I move to approve.
I have a motion for approval. I need a second.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye with the right hand. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Here we go to Bluegill Marina, PUD 22334. And I think we got a No, that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
There was one handout, Mr. Chairman, on one page as a part of this that was put on everyone's desk.
Yes. That was to give city employees free use of the facility. Is that what that's the one you're talking about?
Well, yes, sir. We want to insert the word permanent and free.
Permanent and free.
And
Done.
don't forget it. Don't forget us.
Please scratch everything that was just said. Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, for a public hearing case PUD 22334 Bluegill Marina PUD Plan Unit Development Amendment. This proposal came before you last year as an upscale RV resort. It's located north of Highway 441 and west of County Road 44. It's the old, I believe it's the old Aljana Fish Camp. It was called Harbor View Park RV Resort at that time. The request before you today is a couple of items. One is we're going to keep that PUD, we'd like to keep that PUD in place with some specific modifications, which include changing some buffers and allowing them to utilize some different types of units for the practice of what's known as glamping. And we have some people here to explain all this, but glamping is basically glamour camping. You're in a tent, but you're also in a bed with some lights and things like that. So it's a little different, but from staff standpoint, no big deal. And some unique uses would be interesting for a change instead of just more subdivisions. So under the department review summary, didn't see any specific or interesting comments there.
Okay.
We did not receive any public responses, written responses. I don't believe we received any in the mail. I'm sorry. We did get one approval on a public response. Public Works had a comment in here regarding they have no issues with the request. They want to make sure the developer and owner are aware that per the city's FDEP permit, RVs are not authorized to connect to city sewer, and the city can't take ownership of the roads. Beyond that, that's the real only issue that we came across. Our FDE permit, our Florida Department of Environmental Protection permit does not allow cities to take in RV waste. It has to be a contract and have it hauled out. I don't know what the deal is. There's some kind of chemicals or something in there that doesn't mix with our machinery. I do believe that we could go ahead with the recommendation. If I can find that page quickly. For PUD 22344, mixed-use PUD RV resort for Leesburg Lakefront RV Park LLC. Planning and Zoning Division is recommending approval of this request for the following reasons. One, the proposed request is compatible with the current surrounding zoning districts of C3 Highway Commercial and Lake County RMRP, which is Residential Mobile Home Park, and Lake County CP Plan Commercial. Two, the proposed request would allow additional uses for the property that are consistent with the current surrounding future land uses of City of Leesburg General Commercial and Lake County Urban Medium Density. Three, the proposed request as conditioned in the attached PUD agreement does not appear to create a detriment to surrounding properties. And four, the proposed request is consistent with the city's growth management plan, future land use element goal 1, objective 1.6. The action requested is to vote to approve staff's recommendation to modify the existing PUD to allow for expanded and additional amenities and modified development requirements within the planned unit development and forward these to the City Commission for their consideration. Mr. Chairman, Tara Tedrow with the Lowndes Doster law firm in Orlando is here to answer any questions you may have, and Ms. Tedrow also brought along these requested ordinance changes. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Tara Tedrow, Lowndes Law, 215 North Eola Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. I have a brief slideshow, briefer than normal. Has a lot of pictures, though, because I feel like we wanted to contextualize exactly why we were asking for these changes tonight. So we appreciate you bearing with us so we can do a little bit of a dog and pony, because we are very excited about this project. So as you heard in the staff report, it's over about 29 acres with the future land use of general commercial. The zoning is PUD. So last year, there was already a PUD ordinance approved. We just made some changes to accommodate a more upscale project. So already had 250 RV pads on the site, already contemplated some accessory uses such as marinas and clubhouses and boat slips, but we wanted to make sure that the quality of the product that we were bringing was going to be tailored very specifically to the end user and the developer of the site. So it required a little bit of shifting around of the plan that we had. So the real operative difference in terms of the uses from the prior PUD comes in the form of those permitted uses. So we added cottages and glamping. So in addition to the motor homes and travel trailers, the cottages are added that are about under 1,000 square feet, and they're stick-built structures. We'll show you some renderings of what those look like. And then glamping, which is going to be an additional use on the site. Again, something that wasn't permitted specifically under the prior PUD. In terms of community outreach, back in July, we held a meeting with our neighbors, Brittany Estates, the ones who would be most affected to the west. They came out, we were with them, I think, about 2 hours, went over all the details of the project, answered all their questions, and afterward they reached out, specifically thanked us and said that the residents are excited about the project that we're bringing. And I think that speaks to the quality that we committed to providing them to make sure that we had it adequately buffered, that we were going to be doing enhanced landscaping adjacent to them so that they felt comfortable with the plans. In addition, there was another neighbor adjacent to the property as well. We've worked with him. We actually signed an agreement with that neighbor to make sure that some specific changes he wanted to see were put into the plan. So we modified our plan slightly because we wanted to codify a buffer, a 100-foot buffer zone that we committed to him, as well as some landscaping. So I have copies of those plans, but that plan created a little bit of a shift, so it'll equate to one of the requests that we have on the ordinance changes. So the type of resort we're developing, again, this is a luxury 5-star motor coach resort. When we met with the developers and the architects behind this project, they said that some of the similar projects of this type of quality, there's one, Margaritaville has a similar concept over in Auburndale, probably the closest caliber of project to what they're going to be bringing. And some of these sites have 3-year waiting lists to be able to get in and bring your RV. And so they are designed to accommodate those who want a 5-star camping or RV experience. We have top-notch amenities such as luxury pool, restaurant, marina, pickleball courts, and a pickleball restaurant actually fronting 441, which the residents next to us were really excited to be able to have that public restaurant amenity there as well. The development will not allow for long-term residents, so this is not meant to be long-term residential. We cap the amount of stays. It's a pretty expensive price point per month to be able to come in on either a nightly basis or a monthly basis. Just going to show you some conceptual renderings that were put together. This shows the frontage of the property on Lake Griffin, and we contemplate that there will be boat slips and a marina. Of course, all of that still has to go through permitting with FDEP. But just conceptually, we're showing where those boat slips might be, a pool area with a clubhouse fronting Lake Griffin. And you can see along the frontage as well, those are where the cottages are. So next to each of the cottages has the ability for you to pull up an RV. So some of them are just waterfront RV parking sites where you would have some amenities next to your RV spot. Others are where you could have an RV and then you would have a cottage. So you wouldn't have to stay in the RV, or you could have guests come and visit, so you have extra space, a bathroom on site, some more private amenities there. And there's also scale of what they would allow, so kind of like a silver up to a platinum level. This shows you, again, some of our existing canals being utilized, which could be boat slips in the future, contemplating offering some fuel sales potentially in a restaurant that would be open to the public there on the lake, as well as the restaurant on 441. You can see the site is a little bit unusual in that it's bifurcated by a large 75-foot existing power line easement. So we do have our commercial portion fronting with our restaurant and our pickleball courts. Then you have it separated and buffered from 441 by an existing mature tree line where you have power line easements as well, and then you get to our project site. We would have security in our site so that it is gated off essentially from the public, so that we have very strict operational protocols that all of our guests have to adhere to, and if they violate any of those operational protocols, then per the terms of their rental, they would have to leave. This shows you the RV sites. Every RV site, except for some that are on the perimeter of the property, are designed so you can drive your RV or your trailer directly through it. So it have easy access to get in and out of those sites, not a lot of backing in and backing out. And we'll show you that each of those sites have some particular amenities next to them. This is an example of a glamping site, or I'm sorry, one of our cottage sites where you could pull your RV in. You see that we have some outdoor areas with fire pits and picnic areas. This one happens to be one of our waterfront sites. Then you can see some of them, again, are the RVs next to where our cottages would be, also on the waterfront. Just a couple more conceptual overviews showing you where the entirety of the property is, where it would be developed out. Again, on that frontage of 441 would be our pickleball concept restaurant, which we hope will be exceedingly popular. This again shows you the 4 different types of sites that we contemplate. The deluxe site, you can see, has an outdoor shaded cabana area, a fire pit, and seating, which would be next to where you could pull in the RV, so it wouldn't have the cottage attached to it, but again, you have some of those amenities directly next to where you could park your motor coach. The standard site is one that would have guaranteed picnic, outdoor seating area. Some come with fire pits, and it's required under the PD that we have some outdoor patio furniture and seating accessible to all of our sites. The water side shows you where some of those sites, again, are just directly on Lake Griffin, and then in addition to the bungalow sites, which would be the ones that are inclusive of our cottages. These are the different types of layouts for the sites. Again, all very conceptual in nature, but some might have outdoor kitchen or cooking areas, the fire pits, the shaded seating, some little amenity areas. And these are just, again, the cottage renderings that you can see. Some have swings on the front porch, but every site will have that outdoor picnic area. This shows you one of the areas for the bathhouse. So for folks that come and want to have showers or other types of bathrooms, very upscale in its design. And then there's an area in the middle that's more of a community gathering space open to those guests to come and enjoy as well. This shows you the different types of options within the bathhouse as well that we have for any of our guests that they could come enjoy. So P&Z has recommended approval of this request, and they provided some reasons, which you heard in your staff report. Dan, were you able to hand this out? I don't know. Okay, great. Thank you. The request that we made just on some technical ordinance changes, just to go through those 4 quickly. The first, under Section 5E6, when it comes to garbage receptacles, most high-end glamping and RV parks like the one we're developing don't put dumpsters and trash cans in front of each of their sites. So we put them in front of each of the 50. We have a management on site where they go through daily around the entire property to ensure that we have trash pickup. It's in our rules that you're not allowed to leave trash outside your house, outside of your door, anywhere on your property. And so we ensure that that is picked up and taken to one of our receptacles. It's more of a valet upscale system. So it's taken to one of our dumpster receptacles and then picked up, rather than having garbage trucks coming through, stopping over and over 250 times if we had the park full. So it makes a lot more sense operationally, and it creates a better experience for the guest. And again, these are based on years of operational history that the developer has in coming up with the way that they wanted some of these very specific nuanced items to be handled. Section 5F, in terms of required parking spaces. So the way that we've designed the property is that it should be walkable. So we have it so the guests can be able to walk from their RV site, from their glamping site, to be able to go over to the pickleball restaurant, to go to the marina. We don't want it so that you're driving. A lot of people actually have golf carts when they come as well. Might be an option for some rental of golf carts on the property for the guests to use. So that way we don't want to over park the marina. We want to have it parked sufficiently so that our guests are walking over to the restaurants, walking over to the clubhouse, and that we can accommodate some of the required parking with golf cart parking spots as well. Go ahead.
Ms. Pedro, under Section 5F, that's a new section you're adding, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, just to give flexibility, and again, staff has to make the determination. So just to account for the fact that our 4,000 square foot building would have a restaurant, but it also has a marina component. So calculating parking based on those mixtures of internal uses, we just wanted to make sure staff was giving us the blessing, because I'm not sure that the straight code definitions and calculations today really account for those mix of uses, and having pickleball courts as part of a restaurant. So we just wanted to ask for the discretion for your staff and their professional opinions to tell us what was adequate on the plan as we came up with those final floor plans. Section 7, so along the buffer area that we had described, and I go back to one of the site plans that you can see. So you can see that we have that green space, that's the power line easement. So we are buffered from 441 with our restaurant and our pickleball, the permanent power line easement, and then we had to shift the site around slightly to accommodate a couple of factors, one of which was the 100-foot buffer that we're giving to the neighbor who asked for it. So instead of that 30-foot buffer that was in the PUD, we show a 25-foot one now along the perimeter of our site. But again, that's along the perimeter of our property on the southern edge, interior to the site essentially, facing that power line easement. So we're really just buffering ourselves from ourselves, but it's 25 instead of 30, and that was again to put that 100-foot buffer up at the north for the neighbor as he requested. It is what we showed on our plan, so we were appreciative if we could have that recommendation included tonight as well. And then the last one was with regards to sidewalks. So we had talked about this with staff as well, that sidewalks would not be internal. In none of the projects, there are no internal sidewalks on any of these types of glamping RV communities. They don't put them internal to the actual site. They have them when you come into the site, but on those internal roadways, they're not designed to have sidewalks on each site. It really doesn't work with the flow and how we have our design and the layout for each of the pads. So those are the 4 changes. We appreciate your consideration of those. If you have any specific questions, happy to try to answer them. We also have our team here if there's something that I can't answer for you.
I have a question.
Sure.
I see an awful lot of boat docks, and I think that's wonderful. Where do you put the boat trailers?
The boat trailers themselves. So those boat docks, again, conceptual in nature, and I'll let my client jump up if I'm saying anything out of line, but we're contemplating opening that up to the public. So if the public is coming off the lake already to stop in for the day to the marina, you could rent the boat slips, you can come to our restaurants, you could come to our clubhouse. We're not sure how many will actually get there, but those are just shown.
Well, I'm thinking about the guests that want to bring their own boat and where to park the trailer. I just don't see an area for it, and I think there's going to be a need for that. Now, I mean, whether you could use on the power line area there or something where you could store boat trailers and screen it, of course, but I think you're going to need something of that nature.
And that, hopefully with that Section 5F change, so our required parking, again, we're going to get some flexibility that your staff can show us where we need to have certain parking accounted for. And I'm sure there's industry standards when it comes to boats and having a marina, the type of parking that would need to be required for us to accommodate those guests who are not coming off the lake. So that's a great suggestion for us to look into on our plan.
Well, this does look like definitely 5-star, and I'm impressed. The next question, probably the fact that it's not going to be a cheap place to stay. It's going to be expensive. You expect it to be. How long can a guest stay? Can they come and stay for 3 or 4 months?
Yes.
Is there a limit to that?
6. No longer than 6 at any consecutive time.
6 months. Okay. All right. Because you get a tendency to making residency.
That's right. They would become non-transient at that point, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So
Thank
that's
you.
the reason.
I might have missed the comment. Is there a public boat ramp where you can put a boat into the water?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
It looks like it's there to the right. Maybe.
Yeah, because we show some parking up there to the east.
Hey, my name is Enon Winkler, and I live at 2096 Hart's Alley, Orlando, Florida, 32814. Good questions on the parking. So yes, if you look, do you have a pointer? So the goal here was to have another entrance right here, in which this area here would be a public boat ramp for people to launch from. Yes.
All right.
Again, where was the restaurant?
So yeah, this here is going to be the restaurant and marina. So the restaurant will be on the northern portion. and then the Marina and the little store right there will be on the southern portion. And then here is another restaurant that we were planning with the pickleball courts here.
Where would you do your glamping at? Is that the bungalow style that we?
Yeah, so the glamping, and I'm not sure if we have a picture of that on there.
Yeah.
So the glamping, so we're trying to be as creative as we can here because we have limited space, and we're also dealing up here with the wetlands that we're trying to work through and make sure that everyone's happy with. So our thought is because of the way the glamping works, and there's you can put the glamping on platforms. Our thought was in this wetlands here, potentially if we needed to not utilize the wetlands, was to put glamping in this area here, very minimal. But that's where we would put the glamping, was up there. So we're working through this piece here, which is wetlands, and we're still trying to determine what we can and can't do there, and we're working through it.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, looking at the requests made by Ms. Tedrow, staff is fine with those requested changes to the ordinance. We don't have any problems with that. I want to verify you met with the residents next door, and they were okay with the 30-foot, no berm. They're good? Okay.
And we actually agreed to some specific landscaping and berming for another resident.
Okay. As long as they're okay with it, then I can.
We showed them everything, every picture, the plans. We had a really thorough conversation with them. And
in the original, there was a big fight about that, so I wanted to be sure of that. As long as you met with them.
No, we had a public meeting, and
great.
We answered all questions. And our goal was to make sure that we do everything we can.
Yes, sir.
And they were very happy that we did it. So
it works. And then the only addition that I would respectfully request, Mr. Chairman, is because our Public Works Department cited FDEP rules, I think we should put a condition in there that we cannot allow RVs to dump into the city's wastewater system. They can for the restaurant, they can for everything else, but, and I'm not an expert on wastewater, but because our Public Works Department specifically brought that out, it says per our FDEP permit, RVs are not authorized to connect to city sewer. And that's something that we can't.
You're talking about gray water, that you can use.
Well, actually it's the waste
okay.
out of RVs.
And I talked to Cliff on the phone about that, trying to figure out what our protocol would be, whether it's, us hauling privately off site or how we would handle it. So perhaps before we get to our reading with City Council, we can have the solid condition as to what exactly we're going to do about it, and maybe say in compliance with city FDE permits.
Okay.
And so that we'll come specifically back, because we'd like to figure that part of it too.
That's understood. As long as it says compliant with the FDEP permit, staff doesn't have any issues.
The what permit?
FDEP, Florida Department of Environmental Protection. We don't want to cross them, and I'm sure the applicant doesn't either, to be honest. This is really more for all of our protection. If there is a way to work it out, staff doesn't have any issues with it. But because it's such a sensitive matter, and I don't know there's some chemicals that go into RVs that don't go into a system. And I'm not aware of exactly what they are.
Which is what we've tried to, we didn't get a chance to have our engineer, who's more of an expert on this topic, talk to Cliff about this specifically. So our hope was to figure out exactly how we're going to be able to have that approved, because there is a bit of a discrepancy in how the ordinance reads. It sounds like we can connect in on one point, but then later, it reads that you have to comply with the code, and then the code seems to conflict. So perhaps, if possible, to give me the leeway to come up with that specific wording that I can present at a final reading before
I'm
City
okay with
Council.
that, because as long as we're aware of it, because the intent of the original ordinance prior to these gentlemen and Ms. Tedrow being involved was to have the restaurant and those types of uses connect, but never the RVs. And of course, that was never clarified in the PUD.
That could be a real problem.
But we don't want it to end up being a problem for the applicant or the city, because I'm sorry?
Or the guests.
Or the guests. Absolutely. It's no guests, no development.
And adding to that, do you have, you had mentioned community rules and things that were fairly tight in terms of what people could do on the property. Do you have any rules about dumping and things like that that might help on this particular issue as well?
The answer is that the comment from Public Works was a big surprise to us. That's the honest answer.
Okay.
We're just like, we're like, what? So we had no idea until a week ago-ish that this was an issue. So we're still trying to wrap our arms around this and figure out what solution we can do because we're limited in land. So, so I think the leniency of giving us some time to figure that out is crucial. But to answer the question, in our agreement with any resident, and we would be happy to share that with you as we can, it's going to be very strict to many things, and it will address that. I don't have that address right this second, but I appreciate the question.
And just to be clear, staff wants this to see this happen. Wants to see this development.
Yeah, we all do.
We're on board with that. When it comes to FDP, FDOT, state agencies, they're going to end up being able to overrule our PUD language. And so that's why I don't want the conflict between
we understand
the
that.
applicants and the city and the end users. So
You don't want to get there and then you can't get there.
if there is the ability to allow Ms. Tedrow and the applicants and Public Works Department to work that out, and then we can present language at City Commission that meets the requirements of FDEP, and if there's a resolution that works for the applicant, planning staff doesn't have an issue with it. We just want to bring it to your attention that, you know, the original intent of the original PUD was to always maintain state rules, city rules, and I'm sure the applicant had the same intent to meet all of the codes and requirements.
Don't the bungalows have bathrooms?
They do.
Those would be okay.
They're hooked up to the sewer.
Well, I think that, and I understand the FDEP regulation, and again, this caught us off guard. And I don't know when that regulation came into play, whether it was a long time ago or whatnot, but there's a lot of things that have changed in the RV space and the chemicals and how they digest fluid. So I think we just need a little more time on that, and if we can come up with a resolution, great, and if we can't, then we'll pivot and figure out what to do from there. But this was something that really caught us off guard.
Okay.
And that solution that Enon is offering and Ms. Tedrow is offering, I'm from a staff standpoint, we're fine with it because as long as that language is worked out between Public Works, the experts in Public Works handle.
This only pertains to the only pertains to RVs.
Correct.
Any site-built structure that has plumbing will be city sewer because it doesn't have the chemicals in the tank that RVs have. So.
Thank you for that clarification. And as Mr. Enon noted, the technology evolves over time, the chemicals evolve, the things change. And so if there's something that we're not able to be aware of as laymen, so to speak, that can be taken care of by FDEP and Public Works and working with them, staff is fine with that.
Good.
So any approval that we do are based upon the conditions that language is clarified with that. So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
what we're
Yes, ma'am.
approving it upon those conditions.
Well, we're recommending approval.
Right. But our recommendation for approval will be with those recommendations to be clarified at a later date with the commission.
Yes, ma'am.
I second.
Okay.
What did he say?
I second.
I think we've worked wastewater up pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead, and we need to include these requested ordinance changes in a.
I do want a clarification, though. At the top of the page of Exhibit A, on a trade deal, it says 22234. Everywhere else it says 22334.
We'd like you to approve the right one. So whatever wrong number I put on there. You can approve the other one too, but we'd like this correct number if it's 234.
Let's look at the maps. I trust the map numbers.
It says
Is it 334? Our understanding is 334.
Yeah, it's that way everywhere else. It's
I'm
this one spot.
Okay.
only slightly dyslexic, I'm afraid.
All right. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll second it.
I need a motion.
Oh, I can't see. I'm just trying to do this.
I appreciate a second, but I need a first from someone.
No,
I'll provide the first.
Go ahead, Tim.
Mr. Chairman, now I won't be able to get it out. PUD 22334, move to approve with the following additional suggestions and the 2 recommendations coming prior to City Commission voting on.
That was relating to
How clear that was.
That was relating to the FDEP permit, correct? Yes,
Correct. And the 1, 2, 3, 4 items that were requested ordinance changes that we have in front of us. Okay, I have a motion. Now I need a second. I got a second. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your right hand. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
I got a quick question for you.
Thank you.
Where's the primary entrance to the project? Well, the map's not up there. I wasn't real clear. I think I thought where it was. Was it?
Your old driveway.
Yeah, so
Is it right here?
So we're still kind of working through that because of some changes. But yeah, so this here already has a turning lane here.
Yeah.
And the goal is to work that in.
So your property abuts this.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And then
And
here would be this would be a separate entrance. That would be for the public, for the marina and the restaurant.
Yeah, so I just couldn't quite see that.
Okay. Before we adjourn, I want to ask that all the commissioners, if you know you're not going to be able to make a meeting because you have a vacation planned or you've got a conflict of some sort, please notify staff as soon as possible so that we can make changes as necessary. This was the first time we've had to cancel a meeting because we haven't had a quorum, and I can't remember when. But just to let staff know that we can't be here.
Rather odd circumstances, very, very unusual. Two resignations, 2 out of town, 2 sick.
Yeah.
So it was 2, 2, 2. And
Too much.
It was just too much, and that's
Too many.
honestly
Too much.
all we could do. So we did have to cancel that last one. But I mean, some of that's the sickness, those things are unavoidable. But yeah, if you do know you're going to be out, if you can let us know as soon as you know, that helps us.
All right. Meeting adjourned.